G'day and welcome back to Australia's best classic mini YouTube channel, Tomo's Tune-Ups. On this episode, we're going to get Grace ready to go on her first Rylstone Classic in 2022. So you're probably wondering, what is the Rylstone Classic? Being a virgin to this is my first time doing it, so we can explore it and have a good time together. Now, the Rylstone Classic is the largest mini gathering in the entire Southern Hemisphere, and this year we have over 170 minis, so it is going to be one hell of a trip. Now, it is a pretend rally, so we don't have to actually be there at particular times and race everyone and do all that sort of stuff, but the element of fun is the idea of the rally. So we need to meet certain checkpoints and do certain things along the way. We're going to start off at a place called Mingara. Now, this is in the Central Coast. It is about an hour and a half north of where I live currently. We're going to be making our way back down through the Hawkesbury, all the way up through Bellsline Road, ending up at Rylstone, in where we will sit down for a couple of beers and a good time that night, chatting about all the different things that we saw and did along the way and the things that we really enjoyed. The following day, once we've camped or decided that if you got in early enough, unlike me, and got yourself a hotel, which I'm going to be sleeping either in my car or by a campfire on the side of the road, we are going to be proceeding to the one and only Mount Panorama in Bathurst, New South Wales. We're going to go there for a couple of hot laps on the following day, and then we're all going to head on home. So this year it's going to be super fun. I'm going to really enjoy this trip. I've got a couple of mates coming with me and a couple of tag-alongs. So this little mini series, no pun intended, is going to go through all the different things, how to prepare for a trip like this. So the first episode today, we're going to go through how to prepare your car for a trip like this. We're going to go through all the service items and things you should check and do to get your car road ready. The next episode is going to entail what tools you need to take with you. So these are all specialty tools that I take with myself and in my Classic Mini on any adventure that I go, and even in my Hilux or even my Hyundai Tucson. This enables me to make sure that if I break down, I've got the basic equipment to keep going. Now, you don't need to go out and spend a lot of money, but I will run through some really basic toolkits that you guys can keep in your car with you. And the third and final episode before we actually hit the rally is going to entail all the spare parts you should take. Now, anyone that owns a Classic Mini knows that they tend to break down, so having spare parts is always a good idea. I'm going to go through my top list of parts that I'd take with me everywhere I go, no matter what. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is carrying out a major service on Grace. So I'm going to be changing all the fluids other than the coolant, because we changed that when we did the timing case. We're going to be replacing all of the liquids in there, all of the filters, and the spark plugs as well. It is worthwhile giving it a tune depending how your car's been running. I haven't tuned my car for a couple of months, and you really should tune it every season depending where you live. Here in Australia, the temperature does change quite a lot. So as you can see, I'm wearing a jumper compared to the earlier summer season videos that I've filmed where I'm wearing nothing more than a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. So like always, jack up your car and let's get started. All right, so now we have it on jack stands. Time to carry out an engine oil and filter change. Alright, so you're probably wondering, why am I changing the engine oil when it looks almost golden brown and brand new? So it doesn't matter how long you drive your car for, it doesn't matter how many Ks you do, you need to stick to the general principle of 6 months or 10,000 kilometers. Now that's for most modern day cars, but I try and do around 3,000 Ks or 6 months, whichever occurs first. So it is one or the other, it is not both. You can't just say, oh, I service my car every 10,000 Ks. It takes you 4 years to do 10,000 Ks. That's not how it works. You need to be changing your engine oil and filter, giving it a good maintenance service every 6 months or 10,000 Ks, depending on what your manufacturer specifies. This is a really good thing for me because I don't drive this car a lot, but keeping the engine oil fresh and clean ensures the longevity of the internals of the engine. So while the engine oil is draining, we're going to be changing the spark plugs. Alright, so you're probably wondering, why am I filming at night? Well, it's about 9:30 at night and this is the only time I have to be able to film. So let's get straight into it. Now, spark plugs are one of probably the most easiest and underrated things to change on any petrol engine. They are cheap, they are affordable, and they are cheap insurance to make sure that the internal combustion of the engine is running at its optimum temperature and performance. Now, you can get different types of spark plugs. You can get hot plugs and you can get cold plugs. There is a big write-up about it. You can go Google it and it will tell you all about it. Essentially, it is the electrode length. The shorter it is, the hotter it becomes, because the current has to travel less between the end of the electrode and the top here. And if it becomes longer, then it becomes a cooler plug. So depending on the sort of application that you're using, you can go hotter or colder. So I'm running a slightly hotter plug this time. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to give you another one of Tomo's tech tips. So when you are fitting a spark plug, instead of putting some grease on the end of the thread and then winding it into the cylinder head, grab yourself a tub of Vaseline, get a little bit, and then just apply it to the thread. Now, this is only going to dissipate when it starts to warm up and not cause any internal problems or running of the engine. So over time, this will just slightly heat up and then go completely. So it's not going to do any damage to it whatsoever. Plus, it'll ensure that when you go to remove it in the future, it's going to be easier. If you put copper paste or even grease on there like we have on previous episodes, yes, it can make it easy to remove in the future, but how long will they stay in for there for before you need to change them, and they're going to be an absolute prick of a thing to remove. As you can see here, hopefully in the light it's alright, you can see a clear difference between the new one and the old one. Yes, they are the same length, so always marry them up to make sure that they are the same length. If they're not, make sure you refer the owner's manual and ensure that you get the right plug. But also, this one's been running quite rich. It is a little bit hot at the tip, probably because I haven't had it tuned correctly, so that is another thing we need to do. Now the plugs are done, it's time to check and adjust the dashpot oil level. Alright, so a really good way to know is if you have enough is to pull the plunger out and then push it back in. If you have a little bit of resistance and you need to push it down slowly, chances are you probably have enough. If it goes in there quite easily, you need to adjust it. While you're there, make sure you clean and service your air filter. If it's a serviceable one, give it a good clean and re-oil it, or just blow it out with some compressed air. If it's looking pretty bad, just replace it. They are quite cheap. Next thing we need to do is check the fluid levels of both the brake and the clutch fluid. If you're unsure as to when this was done last, easiest thing to do is to take the cap off, inspect the color of the fluid. If it looks quite dirty, chances are you need to change it. Now, I did fit a new breather filter here on the top of the rocker cover, and this one here just comes directly from the timing case. So we need to give that one a clean, so I'll get some stuff and we can clean that up. Now, don't also forget to check your washer fluid level. It is always important to make sure that it's full, not just so that way you can see when it is raining or if there's a couple of dead bugs on there, but also if you're like me and have it rigged up to the radiator to help keep the engine nice and cool, make sure it's full. Yes, that is a custom washer bottle holder using cable ties. Now, quickly off topic, going back to spark plugs. When you take them out, you can clean them up using a wire brush and a bit of brake cleaner around the top to clean up the electrodes. It is always a really good idea to have a spare set of plugs kept in your car, just in case. Now, while we're here, you might as well check the engine steady bar bushers. There is one here and one underneath here. Make sure that you check the condition of them. If there is excessive amount of movement or you're getting movement from it, from when you're changing gears and you're snapping third trying to race the guy beside you, chances are you probably need to replace them. If you haven't already, check it out in the link in the description above. Now, like most people's cars, my car is full of custom bits, so this is my coolant overflow. So we just got to make sure that we have plenty of coolant in here. Probably get ourselves a new bottle because that one looks like rat shit, but make sure as well that you top up the overflow if you have one. Also, make sure while you're here and the engine is cold, remove the radiator cap and check the level in there as well. If necessary, make sure you top it up. Now, it is advised that when you top up coolant, you can top it up with water. If you need to apply any more than half a litre, you need to top it up with coolant rather than just straight water. Now we're on the topic of coolant, you want to be checking the condition of the fan belt. You want to ensure there's no cracks, perishing or even fraying of the belt. You also want to check the tension. So by checking the tension, we are ensuring that it is done up correctly and it's not going to slip or it's going to break. To test it, all we need to do is test it between the longest part of the two distance pulleys. So between the alternator and the crankshaft itself. All you need to do is turn it 90 degrees. If it turns more than 90 degrees, you need to adjust it. If you need to change it, do so now. Also, check the condition of the fan blades. If the fan blades look worn, they're broken, they're missing pieces, now is also the time to do it. Now, as you saw on a previous episode, I changed the engine water pump. Now is the perfect time to ensure that there are no leaks from any of the hoses or the water pump itself. If there is, make sure you rectify it before going on a drive. Also ensure that all the Welsh plugs are nice and tight and that there are no leaks coming from any other pipes or places it could be coming from. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be checking is not only the suspension components but also the tyres and the brakes. It is a really good idea that every service you do check these items. Now, you can visually inspect them to see if they are leaking or if they have excessive amount of movement or play or even if they're worn. Things like shock absorbers leaking around the bottom of the tube is going to indicate that it is worn and it is likely leaking, therefore bottoming out. Checking the rubber cones to see if they're deteriorated or even just the drivability of the vehicle. Some really simple checks you can do on a Classic Mini are the following. First one is you want to grab the wheel and try to move it side to side. If you have any sort of side to side movement whatsoever, it can likely indicate that a ball joint or even a tie rod end is worn. Now, another quick and simple check you can do is to grab the wheel and just move it up and down like this. See if there's any sort of movement up and down. If there is, chances are it could be a wheel bearing or even a ball joint that has excessive amount of movement or play in it. Also, visually inspect the shock absorbers to make sure that there's no excessive leaking or the bushes are torn. Now, another quick check you want to be able to do is make sure that the tyres are in good working order. So a really good visual check is to make sure that it is worn evenly across the playing field of the tyre. If it is worn on one side but not the others, chances are it has an alignment issue. If it's worn both outsides or even inside, it indicates an over or underinflated tyre. If your tyre has any sorts of wear, make sure you come see us at Penrith City Tyres Automotive and we'll instruct you what the best course of action will be to take. It is important to note down that you also get your wheels rotate, balanced and a wheel alignment done at least every 6 to 12 months, depending on the drivability of the car and how often you drive it. If you drive it on a regular basis, you probably want to do it more frequently. If not, at least aim to get one wheel alignment every 12 months to make sure that the drivability and the life of the tyre is prolonged as long as possible. Once you've got your wheels off, make sure you check your tyre pressures. It is a really easy thing to forget, but a really good thing to do is to make sure you get into the habit of doing it is check in every couple of times you fill up with petrol. Now, a really good way to know that your tyre pressures are set correctly is to drive the vehicle. If you're the sole owner of the vehicle and you drive it more than anyone, chances are you probably know it better than anyone else. So if you find it feels like it handles like a boat, chances are you probably don't have either the right suspension or tyre pressures set up, or it handles really hard and it grips really well, chances are you probably have it overinflated or even your suspension has been done up too tight. So these are the sort of things you want to be keeping in mind every time you fill up the car, and how often you check your tyre pressures is always a good question to ask yourself. Alright, so now that we have the drum off, we can then check the condition of the brake shoes as well as the wheel cylinders. You want to be having a look between the backing plate, which is this bit here, and this here, which is the material itself. If there's a lot of material all the way around, it is worn nice and even. If there's not a lot of material left, then chances are they probably need to be replaced. To check the wheel cylinders, all you need to do is pull back the rubber boot and see if there's any fluid coming out. If there is, you need to replace it. Now, before you reinstall the drum, have a look at the drum itself. Spin it all the way around and check for any heat spots or deviations in the steel in which it's been making contact. If you run your finger across there and it's unevenly worn, chances are you probably need to get them machined, but they are about $30 or $40 each, so it is cheap to replace. Alright, so the next item on the list that we're going to be changing is a fuel filter. These are probably one of the most underrated filters to change in your car. They are really simple to do, especially on a Classic Mini, and being an inline filter, you can also see the internals of it as well. So you can see how it's worn and what sort of fuel you've been using and what sort of condition the tank is in. Now, here's Tomo's tech tip. Get yourself a set of these old style or even new style hose clamps. This will ensure that you can crimp off the line and not lose as much fluid as what you normally would. So in our case, it's going to be petrol. The last thing you want to be doing is having an Apple Watch on you, or even a G-Shock, even a nice Casio, and just running your hand underneath, trying to get these fuel pipes off, and then dripping down your arm, destroying whatever you're wearing. These are really good, they are cheap, they are handy, and they're really good to have in your toolbox. The other set that I've got is a really good set from Blue Point. These enable it to be crimped on there as tight as you possibly can, and then to release it, all you do is pull it apart. So once it's got the force on there, it locks itself on and will not come off. These are good, they can tend to slip, but they do the job. Make sure as well when you fit the new filter, if it has an arrow showing the direction of flow, it goes that way. Once you've put it in, make sure you tighten both of the hose clamps on both sides, remove both of the hose clamps, and make sure it fills with fuel. It may take a little while to start before you actually start the car because it needs to prime the system. It is worthwhile noting to make sure as well that when you start it up, there is no fuel leaks coming from any of the hoses, fittings, or even the new fuel filter. Right, also, because you're underneath the car, have a visual inspection of everything from the exhaust to suspension to brake lines to brake pipes, cables, everything that is underneath here. Anything that looks abnormal, get it looked at. If you're unsure, consult your owner's manual or a qualified mechanic. Make sure you also check your drum adjustment, both front and rear. If you're running discs at the front, perfect. Check the ones at the back and away you go. Now, one of the most common things that we find as mechanics is finding that the spare tyre pressure hasn't been corrected at all. So always make sure that the tyre is within age. It needs to be within 10 years of manufacture for it to be safe to use. Check the tread condition of it like you did at the front, as well as check the tyre pressure. I generally tend to overinflate the spare tyres, that way if it does lose any pressure in the next couple of months and you need to use it, at least you've got more pressure than what it actually needs. While you're here, have a look at your battery as well. Check the terminals, make sure they're all nice and tight, as well as the fluid levels in the battery. If you do need to top it up, make sure you use distilled water. If it's a non-maintenance battery, then check the little eyesight glass and make sure it's still green, or even grab a multimeter and get it checked out professionally. So that's it for the first episode of preparing Grace for her maiden voyage on the Rylstone Classic 2022. In the next couple of days, you'll see a few more episodes coming out of how to prepare your car for a long distance trip like this. In the next episode, I'm going to go through all of the tools that I take with me on a regular basis in both my Mini and my Hilux every single day. So that way, if I ever break down or see someone broken down the side of the road, I've got a likely chance that I'm either able to fix it or help them get by to be able to get it fixed sometime soon. So if you haven't already, guys, please hit the like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new episode comes out. For those of you following on closely, I do release an episode every Thursday, 10 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. So go check it out, guys. Thanks heaps for watching. Make sure you click all the links in the description and check it out below of all the things that I've just spoken about and all the extra little tips and tricks. So thanks heaps for watching. I hope I gave you a bit of an insight into how to prepare your car for a long distance trip like this. Make sure you go through, check it all out. If you're ever unsure, either come and see us at Penrith City Tyres Automotive, or alternatively seek advice from a professional at your local mechanic shop, depending where you are in the world. So until next time, guys, stay COVID safe, and we'll see you right here on another episode of Tomo's Tune Ups.